as a resource. Because if you don't have the load that you need to meet, well, you don't have to build a resource to meet it. So,
Jeff, Justin, and Senator Winter, I've got questions for you too, but I want to follow up on that. Can you define for us the difference between, say, conservation / energy efficiency and demand response?
Yeah, so energy efficiency is you take out like an electric resistance heater and put in a heat pump. It uses a lot less electricity, but if you turn that heat pump on, it still uses electricity at, like, when you wake up in the morning. So what we're talking about is maybe set your thermostat a little lower in the winter, and you may wake up a little colder.
Justin, so by the way, for my friends from Saskatchewan, they have a large carbon capture and storage project up there around a coal plant, I believe it is, and a hydro facility, I think, and I'm blanking on the name. Boundary Dam. Boundary Dam, yeah, so Boundary Dam, it's been operating for quite a while, a good project up there. So Justin, emissions reductions Alberta. What are you doing to help industry and other participants in this world address the challenges of decarbonization, and what results are you seeing from that?
So Alberta was the first jurisdiction in North America actually to put a price on carbon way back 15, 16 years ago, $15 a ton. We're now at $65 a ton. And that's charged to the high industrial emitters like the oil sands, the cement, the fertilizer plants, some of the power generators. And what the government does is it provides a chunk of that funding over to our organization called Emissions Reduction Alberta, and we invest that in late-stage technology demonstration projects to facilitate both a reduction in greenhouse gases as well as economic growth, jobs, and the new economy. You can do both. It's not an either or. And we have had a track record of experience now for over 14 years where we've invested $1 billion in different technologies along the portfolio, from energy efficiency to carbon capture to hydrogen generation. We funded recently North America's first hydrogen freight train locomotive, CP Rail. They've developed 3 different locomotives, hydrogen buses, as well as the first blue hydrogen production facility in North America. Air Products is building a $1.5 billion facility with full carbon capture sequestration around Edmonton right now. And what we've seen through these investments is it takes government support to help catalyze and de-risk a lot of these expensive investments that typical financing is nervous to do or tough to get off the ground. And through that catalytic investment, we require a 50-50 matching with the private sector, and our projects on average leverage investments 7 to 1. So for every dollar we put in, we see $7 invested by the private sector or other public funders into these projects. There's a lot of intense interest in that decarbonization agenda right now. We're funding right now 11 pre-feasibility studies for carbon capture facilities at industrial scale across the province right now, and seeing some important take-up. And as I mentioned, a couple of these are going to go to final investment decision in the next year or two. Seeing significant interest in the hydrogen development, but we've also invested in utility scale solar, wind, and they all important energy storage. I think one of the biggest nuts to crack in the next little while, if we're really going to see renewables take up, is utility scale energy storage. And there's some really interesting things going on with respect to lithium extraction from oil and gas wells that we're funding, vanadium production out of the oil sands and other areas, as well as using saline aquifers as ways to do utility energy storage into the future. So the key to this technology revolution is to see those investments and demonstrations and trials that can then facilitate the scale up and the reduction in economic costs to decarbonize into the meet the government objectives and agendas that we have, and we're proud to be an enabler of that.
Great, thank you. Senator Winter, in your experience, how are your U.S. policymakers, state and federal for that matter, contemplating the impacts of, in particular, the Inflation Reduction Act, but I would say other policies as well, on Canadian energy consumers? Any thoughts in that regard?
I don't have a lot of thoughts on that, but I think you know, what's been set up here exemplifies the problem. There's a lack of understanding by the general public of the cost of doing all these things, the impact that'll have on their rates. But I think one of the keys to this is that somehow we as public officials have to take the time and the effort to educate the public. That's not easy. It's not something that happens overnight, but I think, again, as we look at the goals that we seem to all want to have, clean air, clean water, it's going to cost some money. It's going to cost a lot of money. It's going to take a lot more time than people would like. And somehow, in order to, you know, when you look at, if it takes 20 years to get a mining permit, or if it takes 10 years to get a transmission line permit, you basically tripled or quadrupled the price of those facilities. So, and when you get to the end, have you impacted the environment any more or any less? I think that's the real question here. So I think to me, that's where the real key to saving money is, to being able to get things done for less expense, reducing inflation, is to cut down on the time it takes to get a permit, to get things built in both of our countries.
I agree.
Great, there's a number of questions coming here from folks who probably can answer the questions better than us up here. Let me see here.